The highly anticipated triple murder trial of Erin Patterson is set to get underway, with a jury being chosen for the trial in regional Victoria in a case which has attracted global interest. She's accused of lacing a beef Wellington with poisonous death cap mushrooms during a lunch at her Leongatha home in late July 2023, resulting in the deaths of the 3 relatives and the hospitalisation of another.
Her former parents-in-law, Don and Gail Patterson, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, died in hospital around a week after the lunch. Heather Wilkinson's husband, Pastor Ian Wilkinson, also became gravely ill but recovered after weeks in hospital. Our court reporter and co-host of the Mushroom Case Daily podcast, Kristian Silva, joins us now from Morwell, where the trial is being heard. Kristian, we know people have come from all over for this trial. Just remind us about this case and exactly what it's all about.
James, you provided a great summary off the top there, and as you say, this is a case that has garnered attention all over the world. It centres around the lunch that was held at Erin Patterson's house in July 2023. And really what happened after it. As you say, there were 3 of her relatives who attended. They ate a beef Wellington meal, and police allege they felt gravely sick afterwards, and they say that Miss Patterson deliberately poisoned those people. Miss Patterson has pleaded not guilty, and that's really the whole point of why we're here for a trial. She's always maintained her innocence, and we saw that very shortly after the lunch itself when she made some tearful denials outside her house.
And Kristian, what are we expecting to happen today on this first day in court?
Well, this is a trial that's likely to run for 5 to 6 weeks. So today really is the first step, and that is picking the jury for this case. In Victoria, murder trials are decided by juries. So it's going to be a case where 12 ordinary Victorians decide Miss Patterson's fate. So the process of picking the jury, it takes a couple of hours. They get a jury pool who are drawn from the local area to come to court, and then from there they pick they'll pick a pool, probably about 14 or 15 who'll sit through the trial, but it'll be only 12 who'll make the final call. After the jury is picked, the judge will give some jury instructions, and once that's done, we'll get into the case itself. Today, I think what we'll see is probably the selection of the jury and the instructions. I think later in the week we'll get into the proper case where we'll hear the arguments from the lawyers and start getting into all of that evidence.
And Kristian, this was of course a case that captured interest from around the world just a few years ago. Are we expecting a lot of people to be turning up for the start of the trial today?
Certainly, James, there's been a lot of local media interest today. As you say, this story made headlines around the world a couple of years ago. So I think the proof will be in the pudding as to whether that international attention is reignited again during the trial. But certainly a court like this in regional Victoria doesn't usually have more than a couple of journalists come along for cases, and there have been dozens that have descended on Morwell over the last couple of days. You know, you walk down the street or you go to the pub and you'll see documentary makers or TV crews and reporters there. So there's certainly a lot of interest, and because that interest is so great, the courtroom itself, while it's not tiny, it just can't accommodate the level of public interest in this case. So the court has had to take some extra measures. They've set up overflow rooms for reporters to attend. There are very limited seats for the public to come and watch. But actually, if members of the public want to see this trial in the flesh, that is really the only way. They're going to have to come to court and see if they can snare one of those prize seats. Now, of course, there's other ways to follow the trial. The ABC will be covering it pretty extensively across all of our platforms. And we've also got a podcast that's going to be following this trial daily. I'm the co-host of that. It's called Mushroom Case Daily, and it's on the ABC Listen app.
There you go. Plenty of ways to get your updates on this trial via the ABC. Kristian, thank you for that.
Let's take you to New South Wales now for an update on the Coronial inquest into the Bondi stabbings, where several people hailed for their bravery are expected to appear today. Digby Worthmuller joins us now from Sydney. Good morning, Digby. What's the latest from the inquest?
Morning, Bridget. Well, it's the second day here at the Coronial inquest at the Coroner's Court in Lidcombe, and as you said in the intro there, we'll hear from several people praised for their bravery during that attack back in April last year, one of which is New South Wales Police Inspector Amy Scott. She shot dead Joel Couchy as he went on a stabbing rampage through a Westfield shopping mall in Bondi Junction. And yesterday, in the opening day of this inquest, we heard, and well, she was praised for her courage as well as her professionalism on that day. As people ran from danger, she ran towards it as an officer on that day. We will also hear from two French nationals who fended off Mr Couchy with bollards during the attack, and they're the only two civilian eyewitness accounts that have been called to take and to talk at the stand. But there is 200 written statements from the hundreds of other people that were obviously there on the day and at that mall. The court also heard yesterday some revelations into the disturbing mindset of Joel Couchy and how he was obsessed with serial killers, death, as well as having planned this attack. And the inquest was told that it's highly unlikely we'll ever find out the true motive behind what he did, why he did what he did. The court also looked into and had some significant questions around the security at the Westfield Mall run by Centre Group. We found out yesterday that there was only one security guard on shift at the time of the attack monitoring CCTV cameras, and during the first moments of Joel Couchy's attack, that person was on the toilet. And so for the first moments when Joel Couchy stabbed 16 people, killing 6 and injuring 10 others, there was no monitoring of CCTV, which delayed that alarm being set off, which didn't actually go off until a minute after Mr Couchy was shot dead by Amy Scott. This inquest has been a divisive one amongst families, and rightfully so. They have to sit through an extraordinary amount of detail and evidence over the next 5 weeks as they figure out and piece together why exactly and what sort of led to an incident like this to happen. And hopefully through this evidence they can prevent a similar situation from happening again in the future. Bridget?
Yeah, look, it was a case that had just shocked so many Australians, and we'll be awaiting the outcome of that inquest. Digby, thanks very much.
In other news, Russia has announced a temporary 3-day ceasefire next week in Ukraine, which the Kremlin says was ordered on humanitarian grounds. Ukraine says that if Russia truly wants peace, then it should immediately stop its attacks and have a ceasefire that lasts at least 30 days.
A world-first human trial of a drug to treat the cause of type 1 diabetes has begun in Brisbane. The drug is designed to retrain the body's immune system in people with type 1 diabetes, so it no longer attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. 5 patients have already been dosed as part of the study, but more are needed.
The Northern Territory's Police Union has rejected a 3% pay rise offer from the Territory Government. The union called the offer pitiful. Last month, the NT Government announced its new wage policy, which limits all public servants to a 3% pay rise each year.
A former childcare operator has been banned from an NDIS business he established following an ABC investigation. Thomas Fanous operated a New South Wales childcare provider, Jumpstart, which was prosecuted for neglect and shut down in 2022. A four-quarters investigation has revealed he then moved into support services for the NDIS, but he has now been permanently banned from the sector.
Survivor advocates are worried that problems with Western Australia's electronic monitoring program is putting victims of alleged domestic violence offences at risk. Perpetrators of the most serious domestic violence offences must wear GPS trackers if they are released from custody. The WA Police Union says the program has resourcing limitations, mobile black spots and unnecessary delays responding to breaches.
Millions of people in Spain and Portugal are facing significant disruptions amid a massive power cut. The outage has paralysed public transport, caused large traffic jams and delayed flights. Earlier, Portugal's grid operator said the outage was caused by a rare atmospheric phenomenon in Spain, but the Spanish Prime Minister says the cause of the power cut is still unknown.
The Vatican says a conclave to elect the next Pope will start inside the Sistine Chapel next week. The closed-door meeting, beginning on the 7th of May, will involve 135 cardinals from right around the world. A two-thirds majority will be required to elect the next pontiff.
And a man has been rescued from Mount Fuji twice in 1 week after returning to the Japanese peak to try to retrieve his phone. The 27-year-old man was airlifted off Japan's highest peak last week, with local media reporting he had to be rescued again 4 days later. It's unclear if he found his phone.